Hi, this is Regina Y. Favors with Homeless Recovery Tips. And so in this discussion, I want to encourage you to conduct a SWOT. And a SWOT, the acronym for SWOT is Strengths, Weaknesses, Opportunities, and Threats. And it is a business concept. Usually, companies might take a particular product or look at the economy of a particular product, look at their market share, and conduct a SWOT. You will also see people who are small business owners who want to get a small business loan, also conduct a SWOT. Of course, if you are creating a marketing plan for a business idea, a product, organization, etc., you would also conduct a SWOT. Well, let's move the business aspect of the concept into life and how we should also conduct ourselves or conduct our lives with a business mindset. Because I believe that if we conducted our lives with a business mindset and we were better guardians over our finances and our money, I don't think we would end up homeless. I don't think we would have to struggle with a particular uh, setback like homelessness. And being a guardian over your money is just essentially setting standards, boundaries, and expectations, understanding that your money is your money. You have every right to your money, and that you do not have to volunteer your money with anybody. You can say no. You can say no with explanation. You can say no without explanation. You cannot approach the situation at all. But most importantly, understanding that you are your own priority and that you are 100% an adult. You do not live at home as a child anymore up under the authority of a parent. And so this is why I think if we look at SWOT mainly from a financial perspective, I think it would help us in other areas of our lives. Now, if we looked at SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in terms of romantic relationships, I think it would help us as well. Because what are your strengths in terms of romantic relationships? Are you the kind of person who will stick it out? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's the other person who doesn't stick it out, but you are the type of person who sticks it out. You go the distance as long as you are sort of permitted to go the distance, meaning that the other person doesn't shut down the relationship. But your weaknesses could be that you go the distance too long, even beyond the fact that the other person has terminated the relationship or is no longer interested or is not showing any interest. And here it is, you try to close the gap by being more interested in doing more things. That could be a weakness for you because then you add money to the mix to try to make the person happy and people please the person, and then your your strategy to do that might affect your finances, so that could be a weakness. Then opportunities is always the opportunity to close any gap in your weaknesses, essentially. So if you are people pleasing a person because of their because of some sort of insecurity, you don't feel like you really have the person, but if you do all these different things, you could have the person, then that's an opportunity to close that gap and that weakness that not you're not going to be able to convert everyone. If you've done something in a situation where you feel like you have to appeal to the person, then that's a completely different strategy. That's a boundary that you could set. I did something. I need to resolve the situation. Hopefully, the person will forgive me and we can move on. But if you are going after a person who you will never change, who is very deliberate, who often might gaslight you as well, make you out to be the problem, frame you as the problem in all the situations, never takes responsibility at all. The opportunity to close that gap by discontinuing or closing out that relationship might be near. that opportunity might be near. I don't know what your breaking point would be, but I'm not going to continue to crawl and crawl and crawl emotionally, mentally, psychologically, financially, just so you can be happy. I'm not going to do that, because then that's going to affect my psychology, my spirit, my money, and anything else, my mind, and I got to have peace. So then the threats would be, in this situation, you not resolving that problem in some way. Either trying to get the person to understand and you having a conversation and closing out any situations, or you closing out that relationship altogether, because leaving too many threats will affect you usually in other areas. But then always remember that you are your own threat. So if you're staying in a situation that is abusive, toxic, hostile, not productive, not working for you, not working for the relationship at all, then that is definitely a threat. So that's from a relationship, a romantic relationship standpoint. But of course, if you look at it from your finances, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities and your threats? So, for instance, your strengths are you pay your bills on time. You believe in paying your bills on time. That's it. That is your belief system. That is your core value. Those are your standards, your boundaries, and your expectations. You're not going to budge in that area. But then a weakness could be a family member and all of and all of their struggles, and all of a sudden they call you out of the blue saying they need some money, and then that could be a weakness for you because it's a particular family member. So then the opportunity would be to challenge that family member. So if you gave a family member money at their behest and at your reluctance, and it could be, say, $300 to $500, right? So then, and maybe it becomes a pattern that you haven't really been paying attention to, but now you see that you are without those finances regularly, right? It's like a pattern, a rhythm. Then you can say to that person, well, this money that I'm giving you right now, I'm loaning it to you, and I'm going to need it back in a couple of months. And that way you can set boundaries. Now, the person is going to be upset, and that gives you an opportunity to address the weaknesses of giving the person something at whim. Because if the person realizes that he or she can no longer call you at whim to give you money, I mean, for you to give them money, and then the money that you do give the person, they're going to have to pay back, they might change their strategy and go with someone else. Now, a person like this will always come back around. It's just who they are as individuals until they address the issues in their life. Uh, they will always continue to come back around. They will circle back around. It's basically rebounding, but it's an opportunity for you to begin to address uh, those times when a person is trying to get you off rhythm when it comes to your finances. Again, you have every right to maintain the rhythm of their finances. Now, you could set aside a percentage every month towards family contributions. So if there's an emergency situation, but you don't touch your principal, you don't touch your main core shelter costs. The person can't get that. That's fine. I think you can set that kind of boundary. But if they call and it's on rhythm all the time and they still haven't resolved the situation individually by themselves while they're in their own homes, they still haven't resolved it. And they're still using you as a crutch, as a person that they can call, that they know who will give in. You always have those types of people. I know if I call you, I know you'll give it to me type people. Okay, you got to set that straight, because then they're going to escalate. They'll move from $25 a week for gas to part of their insurance money, to then later their rent money, and then their car money, and then you'll find yourself paying for their lifestyle, right? So then that's an opportunity to address that kind of financial weakness. And then the threats will be, if you don't address it, you may find yourself homeless. You give your money over too many times and you think you have it, and then one day you lose your job and you don't have it and you can't get it back from them, and now you can't pay your rent. It just becomes a domino effect. And remember, you are always, in any respect, you are always your own threat. You are your own threat in the same way that you are your own competition. You don't need to look externally in terms of competition. You are your own competition, right? You don't need to really look externally for threats. You are your own threats because you live with your body, you live with your mind, you live with your heart, you live with your finances, your mental, your physical, your finance, your psychological. You live with you, and you know what you can take and you know what you cannot take. So when you are thinking about your homeless recovery, conduct a SWOT. So, for instance, uh, wherever you are, if you are in a homeless shelter, right? Um, Say, for instance, you are in a homeless shelter or you're in prison or jail or something like that. What are the strengths of the situation? Of the context you're in. Well, they give you classes, they give you financial classes. You do have the benefit of being in a homeless shelter for about 18 months on program, so that gives you time to plan. The weaknesses are that you are still on their territory. You are still on their time schedule. So when you are in a homeless shelter, you usually are assigned some sort of chore, and you have to do it by a certain time. And sometimes that time can cut into when you need to leave to go to work, or when you need to leave to go to the computer lab so you can apply for jobs. But if you don't complete that chore, you could be kicked out of the shelter. So that could be the weakness, that you are always on their time schedule because it's not your place. Then the opportunity would be to understand that there is, in every facet of life, some kind of time schedule. Don't look at it. Don't look at the fact that you are on their time schedule as being sort of offended by it. Look at the fact that it gives you some sort of routine. At the same time, look at the fact that you are on their time schedule, and that should encourage you and say, I'm offended by this, and I don't want to do this anymore, and I need to make sure I don't come back here. That is to an opportunity. So in one respect, you don't need to be offended because it gives you routine. In another respect, you may need to be offended so you don't return there. If a person in jail or prison who kept going back and forth really thought to themselves, I'm offended by this ideal of somebody putting me in handcuffs, putting me in the cop car, processing me at the center, putting me in the jail and closing the jail behind me. If I was more offended by that and thought about that as much more than sort of like the uh, momentary, I would think to myself, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to. I'm just not going to do this anymore. I got to do all I got to do to stay out of this type of situation. If people were just more offended, right? So that's an opportunity. Then the threat, of course, is going to always be you. So this is homeless recovery tips. Conduct a SWOT.